Question: what is happiness under capitalism? Chat GPT. That's a deep and layered question. Here's a thoughtful take. Happiness under capitalism often becomes intertwined with consumption, productivity, and individual success. In capitalist societies, happiness is frequently framed as something that can be attained through 1. Material acquisition, more stuff, better stuff, luxury, convenience. 2. Career achievement, climbing the ladder, being busy, hustling, living the dream. 3. Personal branding, how you present yourself, especially online, often matters as much as how you feel. 4. Freedom of choice, the idea that having many options, products, lifestyles, beliefs leads to more happiness. But at the same time, many people also find that this model of happiness can feel hollow or exhausting, especially when their self-worth is tied to productivity or purchasing power. Community and shared well-being are sacrificed for competition. Mental health and rest are deprioritized. Constant comparison, often via social media, fuels dissatisfaction. In this system, happiness can become a moving target, always just one more purchase, promotion, or achievement away. So, some critics argue that true happiness under capitalism often requires resisting or redefining these norms, focusing on relationships, purpose, creativity, rest, and solidarity outside of the market logic. How do you see happiness within the system? Or are you asking more from a philosophical, economic, or personal angle? Tar's response: how does this affect Black women in America? ChatGPT. That's a powerful and important question because the intersection of capitalism, race, and gender creates unique pressures and realities for Black women in America. #1. The strong Black woman trope. Capitalism glorifies grind culture, and Black women are often expected to work twice as hard for half as much while maintaining an image of unshakable strength. This trope can make vulnerability and rest feel like luxuries Black women can't afford. Lead to burnout, isolation, and unacknowledged emotional labor. Mask structural inequalities by praising resilience instead of demanding justice. #2. Wage gaps and labor exploitation. Black women face economic exploitation at multiple levels. On average, they earn less than white men, white women, and Black men for the same work. Historically pushed into undervalued labor, domestic work, care work, service jobs. Even today they're overrepresented in low-wage, high-stress sectors. In professional spaces, they're often underpaid, underpromoted, and overlooked, despite being one of the most educated groups in America. #3. Beauty, capitalism, and Eurocentric standards. Capitalism profits off of insecurity, and Black women have been uniquely targeted. The beauty industry often promotes whiteness as the standard, profiting from colorism, hair politics, and anti-Blackness. Wellness and self-care movements, while important, are often commodified in ways that exclude or tokenize Black women. #4. Consumer power versus consumer trap. Black women are among the most influential consumer groups in the US, driving trends in beauty, fashion, media, and music. Yet, they are targeted by marketing but underrepresented in ownership. Their cultural influence is monetized by others, often without credit or equity. Think cultural appropriation. #5. Joy as resistance. Despite all this, Black women have long cultivated joy, creativity, and healing as forms of resistance. Asterisk community care, spirituality, music, art, and storytelling have been vital sources of collective happiness and liberation outside capitalist norms. Asterisk movements like #BlackGirlMagic and #BuyBlack reflect both celebration and a demand for economic agency. So in short, capitalism often burdens Black women more than it benefits them, while still expecting them to show up smiling, stylish, and successful. But through community, creativity, and resistance, many Black women are redefining happiness on their own terms. Want to go deeper into any of those layers? Ta's question. So, should Black women return to traditional roles out of the workforce? Chat GPT. That's a loaded question, and it deserves a response that honors the complexity of Black womanhood, history, and liberation. The short answer is, it depends on who's defining traditional roles and why. #1. Whose tradition are we talking about? Traditional roles often conjure a 1950s housewife ideal, but that was never the standard reality for most Black women. Historically, Black women in America have never been allowed the luxury of staying out of the workforce. Enslaved women worked in fields and homes. Post-emancipation, they labored as domestics, caretakers, and low-wage workers while still holding down households. Traditional roles in African cultures vary widely. Some upheld matriarchal or communal structures where women held significant social, economic, and spiritual power. So the idea that returning to traditional roles means stepping back from work is a construct mostly rooted in white, patriarchal capitalism, not Black history or heritage. #2. Does leaving the workforce equals liberation? For some women, choosing to center their families, communities, or spiritual lives outside of paid labor can feel like freedom. But context is everything. Leaving the workforce isn't an option for many, especially with the racial wealth gap and the economic responsibilities Black women often carry, not just for themselves but for extended family and community. For others, staying in the workforce is empowering, a way to build generational wealth, claim space, and break cycles. The key word here is choice. True liberation isn't about returning to old roles, it's about having the freedom to choose your path without economic coercion or societal judgment. #3. Reimagining roles, not repeating them. Rather than returning to a narrow definition of womanhood or labor, many Black women are doing something more radical. Rewriting the script entirely. Starting businesses rooted in community. Homesteading, healing, and homeschooling in ways that reflect African diasporic values, not capitalist ones. Building alternative economies and support networks like mutual aid, co-ops, or holistic wellness spaces. This isn't about going back,